Hello. So today we're going to be looking at support builds and we're going to be going over what they mean in somewhat detail. Um, I don't just want to go, here's the good build, here's the build you should be running. I want to go over every sport and explain why the build is run and why other things aren't. So we'll start with Corvus. Corvus, you want to be enabling DPS as Corvus. That's the thing he does. He gives DPS mercs so the DPS go and kill things. You're on spreading influence because you enable more DPS that way. So the build you're gonna be running 99% of the time. So you got lifesteal and you got speed. Your DPS want lifesteal and your DPS want speed, so that's what you give them. These cards are kind of filler. You got two 1-pointers. You can replace these if you want. I like self-sustain. Self-sustain is just cool, especially when it's consistent. Unlike this one, shield card just helps you survive. It's the best 1-pointer for helping you survive. Shadow Tribunal is cool. It's just more healing for marks. Like it's more healing, so that's cool. If you wanted to run something else, it would be because you don't want to run speed. So if you're not running speed, then it's okay. How do I want to survive? And that's these four builds are. These builds are all just some combination of HP and shield, and it's just I don't actually have like specific cases for them. But like let's say it was against the Strix, maybe I'd use this so I live 2 shots, or something like that. Maybe if I was against a Jenos, I would run this if I really wanted to. I just pick some combination of shield and HP to let me live whatever. This is just a build. I'm testing this card. I don't think it's good, but his other cards. This card I think has potential, but I'm not really sure that it's all that great. Like I think because you do want to be moving marks around a decent bit, but I'm not sure that it's like super consistent enough, and you're not always going to get value out of it. It could be okay. I don't think it's good enough. I think it's fine, but I don't think like the number is high enough. And you could run it in dark gifts maybe, but even then, like, yeah. These cards are all cool. Like they do cool things, right? But none of them really help what you want to be doing. And some of them the numbers aren't high. Like this is cool, right? Like I'd run this, but it's like so low percent that it's not actually gonna like help you from anything. Same with this. Like it's just not enough, and especially because like usually you're gonna be knifing out immediately. This card I'm messing around with. This card is just like, I mean, you could run this as a 1-pointer if you wanted, but this card is also a good 1-pointer. But I prefer other stuff. This is like good. Like these two cards are good. They just don't do much, and again, like you need like pretty much speed and lifesteal at 5, so you really don't have much choice. This is a really interesting card, but it relies on you being low, and if you're low and a flank gets on top of you, then you're just dead. And it's all that for like an extra 10% healing, and like that's not really great. Like it's not worth sacrificing your life for it, especially since you'd have to manage this with grand design and your self sustain. I don't think it'd work out well. It's a cool idea though. For Damba,
Maldamba.
this is the main sort of build you're gonna see. Like Damba's just he's a throughput healer. He's a really good throughput healer. He's just gonna keep bulky tanks alive, bulky teams alive. But he's also one of like he's probably the toughest support to kill. Like he can stand up to the best DPS in the game right now, and he'll be like, yeah, sure, I'll take this duel. So that's sort of what you want to build towards, and you're running Spirit's Chosen because that's his best healing talent right now. So you're running your presence, run it at 3 or 4, up to you. Don't run it at 5 because at that point, once you start building Chronos, you might as well have it at 4. Ritual Magic. Some people don't run this. I think this is one of the best 1-pointers that he has. Just because it helps you stay alive. If you take some poke, you don't have to use your gourd on yourself or anything. It's pretty cool. Fleeting. That's just a personal choice. I like it. I use Sliver a lot. It's just a 1-pointer. Possession, I think, makes him good. It lets you stand up to DPS. Actually makes you bulky. If you're not running this, honestly, might as well run Ying. Because then if you're not running this, you're taking away his ability to actually stand up to DPS and defend himself. So, and then Swift Spirits, it's the I mean, move speed is nice, right? Like you don't need to run this per se, but move speed is never bad. Other builds, I have a build of Gord instead of speed, and I have a build of HP instead of speed. If you want more healing, then sure, run this. And if you really think you're gonna get dove a lot, you can run this. But this is where you're gonna be running like most of the time. I'm testing a build with this because you can start nimble too, and that's cool. There's some EU guy who runs this. I forget who, because it's been a while since I imported this, but I mean, you can use it, I guess, if you really want to. If you see a build that says pirates, that's a gimmick strat where you have 5 people sit on point. So if you see a build that says pirates or DPS or something, just ignore them. I'm not going to be talking about DPS builds because DPS is not my strong suit. So, but Furia is like, you want to be a beefy damage dealer and you just want to like farm damage. Like you want to put out a lot of numbers. So you're running Cherish first of all because you're healing. And Solar Blessing is garbage. These are all like Solar Blessing builds. This one has dash resets, which were necessary in the past. Now you have Lightforge, so I'm not too sure. I think I'd run something like this, because then you could still be a beefy, like, you still have Burning Oath. And that's testing. This is the build I'd run most of the time. Actually, I run these, like, evenly, right? So it just depends. Do you think you can keep your Wraith meter up or no? And in casuals, most of the time the answer is no. And in ranked, most of the time the answer is no. But if you have like really beefy tanks, you have like Anara and Makoa that need a lot of healing, then you're probably fine just running the shield guard because you're probably gonna have your Wraith up like most of the time anyways. And if you don't have Wraith up, then you're not playing to Furia's strength. You're not being that like beefy damage shredder sort of character. So that's sort of what like the build is geared toward, right? Burning Oath, Piratic Damon, these free cards are all just to make you beefy and do a lot of damage. That's their goal, right? And then Lightforge is a really good one pointer. Like it's more beams, which is really cool. These cards don't do anything for you. Like that's not doing anything. Like if you hit a beam, they should die. Especially if you have someone with you. You don't need Wraith. You don't need these, like 99% of these. This is cool. I'd run this at 5 if I could, but that doesn't help me be the beefy damage dealer sort of thing. This card is bugged. Actually, it's not effective by Cot, so that can be fun to abuse because all of a sudden you heal for like 1,000 if you hit everything, which is kind of gimmicky. This card, I see some people run this. I don't like it because it uses up your mobility to get a cooldown back that's not even that great. Like, yeah, cool, more beams, yay, that's nice, but you're using your mobility for it, and I'd much rather have my mobility against flanks. This is a good one-pointer. I don't like it personally, but like I know it's good. Shield card, really good. This card doesn't like, I don't know, it's a win more sort of thing, and I don't like win more cards. Why would I try to win more when I could just invest in winning in the first place? So Grover. So Grover, you're on deep roots, and you just want to be like, you want to poke out the enemy DPS, and you want to keep things alive. So that's a lot of base kit though. Like most of his build is geared toward getting roots and keeping your healing up. So you need range first of all, because otherwise you don't have range for anything. You can't heal, and healing is cool. These cards they let you get roots off, and they let you keep. This is like in my opinion, the best way to get heals up. You could run something like this, but that's not as many heals if you hit every root. And also this lets you heal root, then heal soon. So like it's a sort of burst, which is handy because it gives you more control over your healing. And then these two are one pointers, and I think they're the best one pointers. If you want to run this, like hold up, let's go over the other builds first. This build, let's see, if you pop your DR, you can tank a BKL with this build, It's not great because most of the time Cauterize exists, but it's fun to pull off. This frog builds. So on Frog Isle, if you run range 4, you have to like peak main super hard to heal point. But with range 5, you can play the corner and steal heal point, which is really nice. Talking about his other cards, speed is nice. Don't really have room for it because you're either sacrificing range or your root cooldown or your heals cooldown. This is an interesting one pointer because it procs off of every bounce that you get, which is interesting. But again, it's like I just think that having more healing and DR is like really cool. Again, that one's not necessary. And you can meme around with these two cards. That's not necessary. That's not necessary. This isn't necessary because of a feature. That's a win more card. That card's fine. That card's fine. And that card is just worse. Like it literally goes like bad way of surviving, okay way of surviving, best way of surviving, and the even better way of surviving. But like these cards, that card just outclasses that card, outclasses that card. For Ying, you just want to heal. Like you run life exchange and you just want to heal. So how do you heal? Well, you have your heal cooldown on max, and then you keep your clones alive. And you have a one pointer, and that's the build. That's all it's a build. You could run this build in every game and you would be fine. So like that's literally the build. It's heal cooldown, best way to keep your clones alive, one pointer. Carry on free. If you buy Chronos 1, let's say you have 100% uptime on your clones, you can do this and not buy Chronos. But usually you're starting Chronos anyways, and it doesn't really make too big of a difference. Rewind is probably one of the best one pointers in the game. It lets you stay healed when you're teleporting around. Also has a cool interaction with Spring Bloom, where if you TP and then someone shoots you and you just dodge it, it'll probably kill the clone because the clone will have like 200 HP. And then it'll proc Spring Bloom and you get another clone to TP away with, which is really cool. Other builds. So I only have one other build that I use. This is like against Grohk and Combustible Drogue because I don't want to give them resets or stuff. So just max Spring Bloom and the second best one pointer. So other cards. This is cool in DPS builds because it lets you do more damage, but you're not trying to do more damage with your build this game. This is another way of keeping your clones alive, but I prefer Squadron and Spring Bloom. It's perfectly fine though. These cards don't do anything with life exchange. That's garbage. That's win more. That's reload speed. This is cool. Like I'd run this, but like there's no room for it. All the TP cards are like cool, but again, like they don't help you actually heal. So and you have the tools to survive already. Like Ying can be really sneaky with her teleport, and like when she plays with her team, and she has ways to survive. Like it's not like you're super weak and you need to survive, or it's like Maldamba where you want to be threatening, right? Because you can do less. Like you can poke and you can play cleverly, but you don't need to invest in it if you build. Jenos, run this build. Your Luminary, you want to keep heals on people. There you go. You need like the only difference, you could mess around with like this, right? Like you do something like that, but like there's no reason to just run this. Like it's literally every Jenos just runs this build. You don't need to think about it. His one pointers are bad. Like most of these cards are bad. This is win more. This is nothing. This is a good card, but you don't have space for it. This card, if you're getting value out of it, you've made a mistake somewhere. This is like, like I'd love to run this. This is cool. This is fun. I don't have space for it. I have to run all these cards. So, the only other build that I ever run is this, because this lets you get back on high ground on Last Choke of Brightmarsh. And yeah, that's it. That's the only other time that I run it. Run a different build. So Jenos is cool. Run Luminary, mark things. It's Seris. People haven't like played too much Seris, so I don't think people have like figured out a build. I'm gonna show you what I like. So if you're playing Seris, okay, they actually nerfed Seris super hard this patch, because they killed the extra second on Mortal Reach. And previously, what you ran Seris for was either to farm a lot of damage on tanks and farm ult and like spam her ult, like on Jag or something against like double backline, or you ran it after many supports have been banned and picked as a sort of like aggressive support who can pocket flanks across the map. Like I played her on Splitstone a lot, or not a lot, but when I played Seris and Scrims, it was mostly on Splitstone with 2 flanks, and I would just heal them across the map with Mortal Reach, and that's what Seris did. She doesn't really do that anymore. So I haven't like tweaked this build too much, but I think I'll be running something more like this because I think the only reason that you would ever run Seris now is if you ran Soul Collector. Like the only thing that she's like actually better at than other sports is if you run Soul Collector and you just like farm damage and farm your ult. And that's what this build does. So I think Umbral Gate is like necessary. Like I think you always want this card. It is so good. Sources, you want to be farming damage, you want to be farming your ult. There you go. Veil's a 1-pointer. Blood Pact, you need self-sustain, and then you want these 2 cards at 5. I think you want Spirit Leech at 2 because you literally never have to reload. So again, keeping that farming damage thing going on. And then Veil's just a 1-pointer. So like you can mess around with builds. Like this one has more self-sustain. This one has like more Veil and less ult charge. But like realistically, it's like within 1-2 points of this is what I would run most of the time. For 1-pointers, this card is garbage. Run Umbral Gate. This card doesn't really do enough for me, and like there's also just an ammo card right there. This card is cool, but I don't find that it actually like saves me too much. Like if you're gonna die and you have this card, it's like it's not really gonna save you. This doesn't really help you do too much. Like there's better options. This is interesting. A lot of people run this, but I don't really get it over just buying Nimble or just running Umbral Gate. Like I don't think you need it. This card is worse Fade to Black, just straight up. It's just less cooldown reduction. This card, if you're in Shadow Travel, you should be living already. So Fade to Black is a really good 1-pointer, especially like you run it at like 1 or 4. I think is the benchmarks that it hits. I could be wrong. Maybe that was old Mortal Reach numbers. I actually don't know. But Fade to Black is a good 1-pointer. Soulforge, it's cool, right? Like it's neat and they buffed it. But I don't know. I don't think you run it. I mean, you definitely didn't run it last patch. Maybe now because they buffed it, and you might play Seris a bit like on closer maps where she can farm damage. Maybe, but I doubt it. And these cards are cool, but there's like I don't know. I feel like this build has everything that you would ever really want in it. For IO, so you want to be putting Doggo on cap, and then you want to be pocketing DPS. And you run Goddess's Blessing for the DR. So they nerfed the speed card. So originally, like this was the sort of build that I came up with like you'd want to keep things alive, you want to keep yourself alive, and 1-pointers. But I think that speed is still good. I think. So I changed to this, which is now keep things alive, keep myself alive, pocket things gooder, and 1-pointer. So like it's less healing, but you also don't want to be like a super throughputty heal. Like if you're taking a slow fight as IO, like something's wrong. So that doesn't really matter too much. I wouldn't lower it any more than this though. For other cards, also this is what I'd run for lifelink, like something like this, but don't run lifelink. I mean, it's really fun, but it just doesn't do enough numbers. This card is cool actually. So on Ice Mines and Jag, well, Ice Mines it's cool because it lets you get dog on cap from the windows, from the high grounds near point, which is like super useful because otherwise you have to feed in barn or have to feed on the stage to get dog on cap. So I legitimately think like you need an Ice Mines build as IO. This one is Jag. You can get it on point from mid if you play the side that's closest to stun, which is useful because it means you don't have to like walk down main to get dog on cap. Stone Keep, there's no real specific thing for Stone Keep. I just noticed that I always missed dog on cap by just a little bit when I played Stone Keep, so I run this build on Stone Keep now. And Split Stone, I think it lets you get dog on point without peeking their high ground super hard or something like that. I forget exactly. I haven't messed around with this in a while. But this is probably what I'd be running most of the time. So yeah, the range, good card. This card, yeah, you can undo the nerf, cool. But if Luna's dying, then either you're okay with it because it means they're shooting the dog and not your team, or it's this card isn't going to save Luna because you made a mistake. So, not great. This card, the 18-second cooldown doesn't matter too much because either the fight's over and you can afford to wait for the cooldown, or like if your team lost, cool, you respawn, and then when you respawn, you have Luna back. Or if you win, cool, you probably have like less than 7 seconds on your dog cooldown. So you can stand on point for 7 seconds and then put your dog on point and then leave, and that's perfectly fine. So this card is bugged. So it says it like every 1 second. That's not true. It regenerates whatever percent of moonlight every 1 second when you're not using moonlight. So it's effectively this card, like it regenerate 2% moonlight every 1 second within 30 units of Luna and while not using moonlight. That's what the card description should be, or the card is bugged. Just as a heads up, I don't think it's a great card otherwise. It's the same range as Lifelink, so it's not huge. Has potential maybe if they fix it so that it works every second and not just when you're not using Moonlight. I think it could be interesting, but as it is right now, not great. Spirit Arrows, it's kind of a crutch. Like, it makes you get punished less harshly for mistakes, but also you could not make those mistakes in the first place and then have more space in your build so you can do more. Crescent, not great. Like, I was so squishy that if you're ever proccing this card, you're probably dead. It's good as a 1-pointer in sacrifice builds, but like not in healing builds. This isn't necessary. This is cool, but like you don't really have space for it. This is you don't need it. That's a fine 1-pointer. This is a really interesting card. I think it's fun. I don't know. I don't have a build for it, do I? No. It's just I don't know. It's a fun card, but there's some cool stuff you can do with it. For Pip, Pip is like he's a throughput healer, but his thing is that like the reason you pick Pip is his ult, and because the healing is good enough. Not because his healing is good, it just needs to be good enough because his ult is just that good. That's why you'd pick him. So with his build, you just want to do as much healing as possible. So you want to keep yourself alive, you want to keep your team alive, and you want to not miss heals, and that's your build. And then I think this is the best 1-pointer. You could run more range if it's something like Jag Falls and you want to heal through walls a bit. If you really want to run speed, then you can run this, but I don't know how I feel about that. I think just having more cooldown is better. So yeah, speed is fine. These are all cool, but like you don't need to be bouncing around to be a throughput healer. So then this card, you might as well just run Gift Giver. These are like really good cards, right? But they don't like help you heal. So you might as well help yourself heal. Moxie is weird, right? You used to definitely run it in healer builds, but it doesn't actually like do enough anymore. And why are you going to need it? Like, are you really? Is this really going to save you? Is like the question you're going to ask. And like, no, it's not. And even if it is, you can just do this. Like, you could do this if you want, right? Don't. But that'd be better than Moxie. So you can usually just wait out of combat or out of cot, sorry, or out of combat. It doesn't do enough. There's better options, and also you can play slow, right? Like your Pip, you don't need to be fragging out. You also run combat medic because Mega Potion is garbage, so there's that. Having two healing talents that play exactly the same is a interesting decision because one's just gonna do more than the other, and that's combat medic right now. So this is a win more card. This is interesting, but you don't really have space for it, and like it's not very much move speed anyways. Last one, Grohk. So nobody's really figured out Grohk. Like nobody's figured out like a heal. This is the healer Grohk build. Because like nobody really plays him. Like you run Spirit's Domain for sure, but That's like the only thing people have come to a consensus for. I should really stop calling this test. This is what I run like most of the time, so we're just gonna call that speed. So this is what I like. Um, this card is nuts. It is so much fun. If you have not played with this card, like this is what I used to run as a DPS before. Like even if you like just DPS Grohk, try out something like this. Just replace Conduit with Spirit's Grace. It's fun. You have so much mobility, and stuff that's fun tends to be good, which is interesting. So, but like seriously, it's good, right? Like you know how that Grohk BK ult combo, like you can do it without ulting now. It's it's insane. Um, but anyhow, how the build works. So you want speed. Well, you want speed. Speed is fun. You want to actually like have enough healing for Spirit's Domain, and I think that you need these two cards at these levels, or at least these levels. You want your totems to not die. 150 is actually so much better than 100. It breaks a few benchmarks. Um, and then I like Gale still, possibly because I can't seem to not use Ghost Walk to reset my totem cooldown. Like I feel like it's just a habit that I'm gonna have until the end of time. But I think it's a nice option to have, especially like, oh god, everyone's low and I need a totem now. I mean this situation isn't like super uncommon. So for other cards, this is fine, but like the other, I mean, I feel like you need the other cards. Like you want speed, you want Gale, you want your totem to live, and you need Spirit's Domain stuff. Like you don't need to buff your Ghost Walk. You're probably going to be playing on Grohk on small maps anyways, so you don't need this. Like I'd love to run this, but it's not very much, and there's better options. And you have two totems anyways. Like if one of them breaks, it's not the end of the world, and you're running Spirit's Domain. So these cards are all great for a DPS build, but like they're not necessary. Like your self sustain, you have your totems. The range, your right click is garbage as a healer. This, like you have your totems for speed, and like you don't need it. Like you don't need to go fast. This could potentially replace electrostatic, but I don't think it's consistent enough. And then these cards are good, but Grohk's already pretty survivable with his totems and his Ghost Walk. And again, I feel like you want the other cards. So anyhow, I hope you guys enjoyed this. This was like a really fast speed run of this, I think. But I made a video of this sort of idea like a patch ago, and then I just forgot to release it. So I'm making it now. I made it a lot faster because I stammered a lot in the other video. So anyhow, I hope you guys enjoyed, and hopefully kind of let you see or give some examples of why some builds are the way they are for me. And I also want to put a disclaimer out there that these are not like the objectively correct builds. I don't think that there is an objectively correct build. Like the only reason I run Eerie Presence at 4 instead of 3 is because it's personal preference, and I like 4. So there you go. But anyhow, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.